in terms of how they impact the conversation about climate change that you mentioned a moment ago. It's what the problem is, what is causing the problem, how do we fix the problem, and when you mentioned the game studio, that the gamers said we want to support this cause, and they did that. Space 8, yeah. So that sounds, oh yeah, that's good. Someone's got a cause. They donate money towards it through a game to help the cause. Great, but the problem is the issues that face us. They're supposed to be done through governments using the money paid through tax. And so what they're saying is pay your taxes and we'll siphon as much of that as possible into private businesses. And then on top of that, if you've the other problems in the world, you have to donate to that out of your own pocket. So, and then we look at why isn't our taxpayer money being used to actually fix these things? Because politicians are corrupted by the wealthiest people and corporations. But that is that's the difficult fight to have. It's far easier to go pat yourself on the back and going, oh, we're helping with this, when that's going back to individual responsibility rather than it being the system. Because if you go, right, if everyone chips in £5, we can make sure that everyone who is homeless has a home. They go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Everyone puts in £5. Oh, how about for another £5 we can get all children's school meals? And then you go, oh yeah, that's all brilliant ideas. And then you look back and go, that's what taxes are meant to be for. And it doesn't get around to that. And I think another problem with them being so tentative about climate change is it feels like it's just putting it in a normal barrel filled with video game enemies. You've got zombies, you've got evil scientists, you've got Nazis, you've got climate change, and just makes it not having the weight that it needs. And the demonstrate, again, coming round to how do we fix it, the people who were doing the Just Stop Oil protests, where they were throwing stuff on paintings and blocking the motorways, that's good for getting attention, but it hasn't changed anything. And marches don't change things, and politicians can't change things. Though all those ways that we're told our entire lives are the ways to fix things, they have been proven to be extremely unreliable, which, again, bringing it back round to the union organising stuff, the only thing that stands a chance of working and making change has been the RMT strike recently, because they have you get 90,000 people, all the people qualified to do a job, and you say, we're not going to do it. That is reliable power. But again, it isn't very sexy, and it's hard to use as games. So I just wanted to add that on the end of that topic.
Yeah, I do think that, like, it makes me think about like Cameron's Big Society, was it? And where everyone, it was like, well, why don't you go out and volunteer and fix these things? We're going to shut the libraries down, but if you want your local library running, then more power to you. And this idea that people could volunteer and engage in order to keep systems running that, in many people's opinions, lie within the remit of the government. And obviously that's a very attractive way forward for particularly conservative governments who want a high income, low tax setup, because it means that they're paying for less, because the public, the citizens, are filling the gaps that are being left by the fact that they're not paying. And on one hand, that's good. I mean, I do agree with people getting involved in their local communities and engaging with charities and all of those sorts of things. But I do think it's really problematic when it starts to be like, isn't it great that the PTA are raising money so that the local school can have toilet paper or books or pens? And just a few years ago, I wrote to my local MP to raise concerns around the amount of people that were needing to use food banks, and her response was that it was really nice that the public that other people had an opportunity to donate to those food banks and to support people in that situation. And that is the kind of spin that's just extremely problematic.
Well, it's the charity
as
model,
far as
isn't
I'm
it?
concerned. Sorry?
That's the problem. The problem is the charity model. I don't know if you guys know about the charity model. Basically saying that charity will solve and fix all problems when really it shouldn't be existing at all, because all it does is engender pity, and if you throw money at something that will solve the problem, is what it's essentially saying. But that's not really the answer, is it? I was also thinking while you guys were talking about how we can think about the issue of climate change, and I think what a lot of people have a problem with is that, or at least engaging with the issue in their own minds, is that they know it's a problem, but they don't engage with it, maybe because it's about value and what we value in life, and people only care about what they care about at the end of the day. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it will come up to a point. Basically, what I'm saying is that what we ascribe value to isn't like going to carry on forever. A lot of the things we're using in our lives are damaging the planet and aren't a infinite resource. They're going to run out. And I think it's getting to grips with that is quite scary. And that's quite hard for a lot of people to engage with in a meaningful way, because like in maybe 50 years time, we're going to be dead. And so, I think that's like the way a lot of people think about it is, if you're in this generation or an older generation, it's less of a problem for you, but it's the younger generations and people who haven't been born yet who are going to be saddled with a lot of the problems that we are creating and have been creating for many decades. So it's about whether we can get what we valued or what we're taking for granted to align with what's happening in a wider sense, and kind of take a more proactive stance on it. I don't really know if that makes a lot of sense, but it's very difficult to kind of put into words, and it's very difficult for a lot of people to actively do that, because again, it comes down to capitalism, like you say, Matt. It's what we're doing in our lives is a lot of people are working to live, so their lives revolve around getting food on the table, supporting their families, keeping a roof over their head. Are they going to have time to think about looking after the planet at the same time as looking after themselves? It can be quite a lot for people to take on, but if we can get that part of their lives to match up with looking after the planet, then that's probably the way to go. But it's just very, very difficult.
I've had a thought the other day, because yet another workplaces experimenting with the 4-day work week.
Yeah.
Going, well, what do you know? We got done the exact same amount of work as we would have done over 5 days, with no loss of pay, and all the workers loved it. All the managers loved it.
Yeah.
They found they were enjoying their jobs and they were enjoying their lives more. And how pointing out how time after time the 5-day work week is shown to be inefficient, and there is no point in keeping your workers for an extra day. And I find myself thinking, well, if it's more efficient, they don't care about the employees. That's not part of the equation. So they'd think about money. But then I had the thought that if you're working 40 hours a week and you only get the weekends off, then you're too tired to plan the revolution.
Yeah.
That they know that they're not going anywhere unless there's a revolutionary change. And I don't mean like French revolution. I mean revolution like socialism revolution, like a Green New Deal kind of revolution, political change, social change, those kinds of revolution that have occurred so much more slowly because the vast majority of people are either saddled with work or saddled with unpaid work, because the entire world is propped up on the unpaid labour of women. And that's why I think that there should be a women's strike. All the women in the country should come together and organise and go, right, we are downing tools.
They did that in Iceland, didn't they? Was it Iceland or Finland?
Yeah.
Finland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Such
it
a
did
good
work.
idea.
It did work. It absolutely did work, because it just it made people recognise the amount of work that women were doing.
Yeah.
And well, I think that is, that's absolutely a problem. And I think, well, I hope that, at the next general election, we're going to get rid of the Tories and, Labour are certainly making slightly better noises about how they're going to manage the environment. But I know it's not enough, but I'm going to take what I can get right now. Okay, so back to the question about does it ruin? Does it? How does it impact on the enjoyment of gaming when you're playing something that reminds you of all of these issues that we've just talked about, which, as Matt says, are extremely heavy topics and maybe shouldn't be sort of minimized in the way that they are in games?
In my experience with the games I've listed, I don't think it's impacted my enjoyment. It's made me think about it. And then after I stop playing, I'll be like, oh, maybe I should do X more or whatever. And then eventually I might get around to doing it. But I definitely do. It's like a little tiny seed in my brain that is implanted there after playing that type of a game. But it's acting on it is another story, I think. But it doesn't ruin the enjoyment of the game. No, I don't think so. And I think if we're looking at games that are going to kind of hammer home the message a little bit more, maybe in educational settings like schools and things, I think that would help the learning kind of be a bit more cemented and more enjoyable for any school kids that are trying to learn about the topic and get to grips with it. Or even if they were making a game about saving the environment, maybe, in those kinds of settings, I think it would enhance things with gaming as the tool to help kind of ease the heaviness burden. But yeah, in terms of my own gaming experience, I don't think it's marred the enjoyment at all. No. But I can see where you're coming from. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's getting that balance right, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what do you think, Matt?
I'm quite grateful in that I've been learning about capitalism and union organising over the last year, because it puts into perspective the problem and the causes of the problem. So I am confident that I understand why the things that I might see in games are happening when it comes to climate change. I understand what's happening. I understand why it's happening, and understanding what I think is the best action to guarantee meaningful change. Because there are things like recycling and planting trees and donating to charities, plant trees and stuff like that. But that's the taking personal responsibility side again. And so I look at it and go, right, individuals can't solve this. Whether it's individuals, even if the wealthiest 10 people on the planet suddenly went, oh my God, what are we doing? And tried to change everything. The next in line of those incredibly wealthy people would find a way to neutralize those people, because it's that system that pushes those people up. And I believe that organizing your workplace and then organizing with other workplaces and building up that's the meaningful, reliable pathway that I could make an impact in. And knowing that is a very long process, and you can't do it quickly, you can't do it alone. So that allows me to relax and sit back and go, I don't have to make an impact on my own. I just need to be part of this crowd and try and help build this crowd. And then it means that outside of that, you can relax and just enjoy things. So one thing I've been thinking about recently, so Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is the heart of darkness, because the horrors that he inflicts on his workers and everyone who works in Amazon or works with Amazon is just being squeezed and crushed to make their service as incredible as it is, because it's awesome. You can get anything from anywhere in the world in 24 hours for a really low price. It's an incredible service. And but it's extremely bad for the workers, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for so many people all along the supply chain. So what we're told would be to just don't use Amazon, or try and only use bits of Amazon, or boycott it, or whatever. But you as an individual not doing it and not enjoying it won't make a difference, because to make a difference, the entire business model needs to be changed so that you go, instead of 24 hours, it could be 7 days. And then everyone along the entire supply chain their lives would improve massively. And that won't happen from outside Amazon. But what is happening is Amazon stores are unionizing, and those unionized stores are popping up all over the place. So when they build up enough power, they will be able to negotiate to make that change, which none of us can impact personally, apart from supporting any Amazon workers that we might know. And then that means you can relax and enjoy Amazon, because you know that they know what the problem is, the union stores and the workers, and they're doing the meaningful work. I think so. That's my perspective on how to enjoy these things.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think the I think the argument is very valid. I think that the issues need changing, that things need changing at a very high level. But I also think that one of the things that has been mentioned a lot over the last couple of days, alongside the government's new policy on people coming here on boats, on small boats across the channel, and the fact that they're going to refuse them to ever apply for asylum in the UK if they turn up that way, etc., etc. One of the arguments that's been given for why the government are doing it is because it's the number three issue on most people's concern list, that we need to stop people turning up on the shores in boats. Now, I'm pretty sure that we all have slightly different takes on how that should be done or what we mean by that, but it's definitely something that's affecting a lot of people's views, and it's the second most important issue for Conservative voters, classic Conservative voters. And subsequently, they're doing it. So I think there is an argument to be said that, yes, we need to unionise. We need pressure put on organisations from the inside. We need the businesses to take action. But public opinion does actually matter. Public opinion does influence these organisations in certain ways, and therefore, I think it can be a double-pronged sword. That I'm mixing my metaphors there.
Yeah.
But so I think that there is something for the individual to do, and some engagement that the individual does. And I think, that if more computer games are made that are highlighting these issues, then it's educating the younger generations into these topics, and it can influence them to make choices that has a knock-on effect on influencing big business and the governments to make changes or to bring about changes. I will say that I do appreciate that the chance of the government getting away with this new change is highly unlikely, due to the fact that it's bloody illegal, as it should be, in my opinion. But they're still talking about it, and when they've interviewed people from the other parties, they're all saying, yes, absolutely, we need to stop these boats. And the reason they're saying that is because it's such a hot topic. And so if climate change becomes a hot topic, then perhaps organisations will take it more seriously, and governments will legislate in ways. So I think I think there is an element of control that lies with us as individuals as well. But I'm not sure whether. Yeah.
We just need to be upfront about the fact that it matters and that we need to do something about it. Like you say. Yeah.
Another problem the unholy alliance of the arbiters of all doom and everything is, you've got the wealthiest people and their corporations, you've got the governments that they corrupt, but then you've got the media that they own. So all the social media platforms are owned by billionaires. In mainstream media like BBC, Sky, CNN, those big things, they are massively overrepresented in terms of people they are populated by the same people that are overrepresented in politics, the ones that come from private schools and Oxford and Cambridge, all the old boys club, they're the same in media. And that is why people coming people who have nothing desperately trying to get here on boats, fleeing, searching for asylum. That's the most important thing for people, because the media is going, those are the problems, those are the problems, those are the problem, and just shouting, pointing, they point people in those directions so that they can continue burning the planet. And that's why I think they shape public opinion. So, for example, on the RMT strikes, they've just been piping out, you're Marxist, you're communist, you want to ruin Christmas, you want to ruin people's work. That's how they shape things. And even though, say, Jeremy Corbyn, for example, he had an incredible socialist platform that he was running on. And they said, right, we're going to make it about Jeremy Corbyn and anti-Semitism. And even if Jeremy Corbyn was the biggest anti-Semite ever, once they got him out of power, the reason Keir Starmer won the Labour leadership election was because he said, I'm going to do the platform that Jeremy Corbyn did. And then 2 years later, abandoned all of it, purged all the socialists from the party. Now they're basically the light Tory party. That's the problem with politics, and that anything can be, they can propaganda us out of anything given enough time. Yeah.
I'm going to throw in a positive recommendation for everyone who might be interested in like learning more about climate change and just like science and what we can do in general. One thing I have found really interesting to watch and useful to think about is a little YouTube channel called Kurzgesagt. In a nutshell, I think that's what it translates to. I think it's German. I can spell it if you'd like. It's quite hard to spell. It's Kurzgesagt. Kurzgesagt. And they have like little animations. It's all sort of funded by I think it's their Patreon they have. And they make scientific videos explaining science, and they have a lot of really good videos on climate change. And if we can do anything, if we're all doomed, and what we can do basically as individuals to try and make a difference. So that is something I would recommend to everyone.
Thank you, Alex. I think that we need to make sure that we put a link to that.
Yes, I'll send that through and make sure that goes up in our description. Yes.
Despite my... Sorry, just going to say, I can finish on a light note as well. Despite my dismissiveness and pessimism in terms of the state of things, I do believe that at the end of the day, technology will save us, because technology is just magic. And as learning about programming, I have an entirely new love and awe of technology. And they're just, what is going to happen in the next 50 years is going to be absolutely, we can't even begin to fathom what's going to happen. And just thinking about things now, like in terms of energy, just fill deserts with solar panels, for God's sake. So like the hottest countries, the thing they have the most in common is there's a lot of sun.
Yep.
And I just think I sit back and I think right now we should be putting the finishing touches on the utopian societies.
Yeah.
And yet we're fucking saddled with this. And the people I do blame are the previous generation who went, oh, it's okay for us, we'll just coast. And then that just leaves the space for the wealthiest people to go, oh, while you're relaxing, we're going to ruin everything.
Darn those boomers.
Fucking
Indeed.
boomers.
Excellent.
Well, on that note...
Yeah.
We'll say I had an awesome wildcard question, but I will keep it in hand for the next time I'm hosting.
Okay.
I have to wait and see. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to us, and check out some of those eco games. One that came up a lot in the texts that I was reading was eco. So that's easy to remember.
Yeah.
But ECO, and apparently that's it. They're saying that that's a really kind of eye opener. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued to go and check it out now. Having read stuff, and it's another sort of builder type game. So yeah, and might get Caroline onto that.
Yeah.
And then she can come and give us a review.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been gaming the system, and you can find us in all the places that will be coming up at the end of this video. And in the meantime, we are out on Thursdays and some other days, I think, but there's always something out on a Thursday. So check us out, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.